very affirming to me as your listener to remind you, hey, you've created this. It's not something that you're just working on. Like, it's here, it's today, it's now. And this is the change that we want to see in the world. So, I applaud all that it is that you move forward and work to speak on and to highlight and to champion, because foster youth especially deserve to know that there is a place for themselves in this world. And it really sounds like everything that you are doing and are attempting to achieve is surrounded with the notion that you have a place here and that there will always be a place for you no matter who you are.
Yeah, and that, even like with that said, yes, you can always find your place, but even if there is no place, you stay at the table and you make one.
Hey,
to be at that table, So
oh. She's like, listen, if you ain't got a seat, I'm gonna give you the tools to make one, okay?
Yeah.
That is beyond.
Customized to you.
Yes. Listen, you want your name in it? You want your initials? No, and that's so amazing, and what would you say that is one of the main reasons you feel it is important to be an activist in today's political climate?
Okay, yeah, so I think it's really important to be an activist in today's political climate because there's so many young, bright, really outspoken individuals that don't think their voices matter very much. And maybe they don't matter when you're like a child, you're not very like heard, you're not seen, you're not acknowledged. But when you become an adult, you want to be in a place where your voice is not only heard, but polished. You want to attract people's ears and hearts and minds. And you can't do that if you don't put it into practice. So I think verbalizing what we think, feel, and hope to accomplish is super important. Even if it's an individual goal, you should say it to yourself, kind of like positive affirmations, like speak it into existence. Because as long as somebody's saying it, somebody's hearing you and agreeing. And that next person's probably going to do more steps to make sure it gets more awareness and a platform so people can hop on and help you. And I think that's what our survivor community has done. We've all kind of branched out into different, caveats of what we're doing, but the goal is to help children that are going through institutional abuse. And it's because those kids don't have a voice, and we know that. We went through it. So we have to be those examples for them when they're ready to overcome their trauma. Like, you're going to have a safe space to voice your experience, your concerns, and your ideas here at We Warn Them, or I'm sure many other ones as well. But I know We Warn Them, I obviously click with Jazz and Gabe and Tay and Margaret, it's great people that are super diverse and including and accepting. So, and I think that's what's important, is building those groups of people where we know survivor, you're an ally, So if you don't voice that, if you don't use your voice, then we can't connect, So it's super important.
Would you mind repeating that last line, "We know you're a survivor" portion?
The survivors?
Would you mind repeating?
If you're not a survivor, you're an ally. Please, come and help. If this hits you anywhere in your heart, if you know any family member or friend who even struggles with mental illness, you should be aware of this industry that's out there who exploits these vulnerabilities. And I'm sure at some point in your life, hopefully not, you don't come into a crisis where you have to check yourself into a mental hospital. But I would hope that if you did have to, the standards would be where they're not violating your civil rights. You know, the standards would be held to a certain like licensing and regulation, you know, like, and that's what we're trying to put forth, is just making sure that these places are not abusing people.
Yeah, and you know, it seems in a way that just starting a conversation, it is a way of making yourself an activist. And I really think that, you know, helping people find their voices in today's political climate is especially one of the most impactful things that comes with self-advocacy and, you know, advocism as a broad spectrum. So, you know, just to see that on this widespread scale of having so many unique individuals come together that are focused on helping to raise the collective's voice, it feels like we have a sacred megaphone.
Yeah, it really does.
You know, and what is one way that you would say your identity especially impacts your goals as an advocate?
Whew. So only 1% of foster youth in our nation, which is close to 450,000, if not more, maybe a little less, but those are a lot of kids that are in our system. And for only 1% to make it to university, it's really sad to me. And for only like 3% to even go to college, when it's free, it just, that's probably the most upsetting thing to me, is because education is our way out, and we're not being told that those are our benefits. We're not being informed that those are our options, or are, you know, we can make a plan off of that, you know? So I think that's a big identity for me, is like education, because when I wasn't in my foster home, I was at school. And my school was always my safe haven. I knew like my teachers very well. I saw them every day. I had good relationships with them. My last foster care placement was actually my culinary teacher in high school.
Wow.
So I stayed with her the longest out of any other placement in foster care. So I always had a good relationship with my teachers, and I feel like the association of school tapers off at a certain age. It just never did for me, because I know how important and significant education is. And coming from a border town, there was a lot of immigrants who couldn't continue their education or get a job legally because they were not legal. So it was an injustice if Americans didn't further their education down in the valley. It was like an expectation. And so even when my mom passed away, it was like I kind of keep with my education to keep her memory alive and keep her proud and happy. And that's a way that I bring her with me, because she was a very intelligent woman, despite her being disabled. She also helped a lot of people. She helped a lot of people that couldn't read English to fill out paperwork so they could get food stamps, or if they were divorced, you know, they would put the men on child support and stuff like that. And they were immigrant women who didn't know how to speak or advocate for themselves. So my mom would go in and help through the church and, you know, do all these things. So I see like myself and what I do, just an extension of what my mom was doing in her life. I'm just doing it a little bit better. And I think she'd be really proud of me. So yeah, my education and my former foster like experience definitely impacts my identity. And I just want to be an ongoing learner for the rest of my life. I'm very open-minded. I'm accepting of new information all the time. I know things are not set in stone. You know, being a science major, a biology major, we're still figuring out that some things that we thought we knew really wasn't. And it's just, you know, with the times that, you know, even in the political realm, times are changing, and you're starting to see a more collaborative working of students trying to bring more awareness to the social injustices going on in not only just foster care, but many other, demographics, whether it's children or even just people in welfare. Like if you're in the welfare demographic, you're a single mother, you can't work a full-time job and be expected to also go to school full time. You know what I mean? Like there's people working multiple jobs and they can't support their family. Yeah. And it's like that's the diversity that we need to be more open about and talk about our struggles without the fear of authority figures like the state coming in and jeopardizing your entire family.
Yeah, and it sounds like that education and also, the spirit of your mother really helped to propel you to remind the people around you just how viable that educational pipeline still is, and how positive it can impact you when you use education to propel yourself further. And I just want to say